Sure about that, lads? Asks Max Margan for the Daily Mail, Australia. Teenage boys vow to stay away from dangerous girls as part of men's rights movement, and members say they will never have sex again. Men Going Their Own Way is an international men's rights online movement. He sticks men's rights in inverted commas. I'm wondering if he dare say that about a women's rights organisation. And women's rights organisations, of course, as you know, are just mostly man-hating, made up of man-hating sexist pigs. Anyway, another subheading. The community, I'm not sure I'd call it a community, describes itself as a male reaction to the excesses of feminism. Yeah, as well as the hypergamy of women and the fact that women are following feminists like toddlers, just toddling off after the Pied Piper of Hamelin. Anyway, despite groups' loathing of women, not necessarily at all. There's plenty of women that I like. Same-sex relationships are also frowned on. Give me a break. I have never encountered, I don't think I've ever mentioned gay people in any of the videos that I've ever done. I don't think I've ever seen it in another MGTOW video. Anyway, Facebook pages are awash with expletive-ridden anti-feminist rants and memes. Good. It seems the movement is now striking a chord with Australian teenagers. Even better, the lads are waking up. And you can bet, if we didn't have the internet, of course, to exchange these ideas and speak about the things that MGTOW speak about, where on earth would boys get their information from? It would be from the mainstream media, and that's why I started hating feminists and then ended up hating the media. And anyway, let's get on with it. Australian teenagers are joining an online community of disgruntled males, disgruntled, try absolutely sick to the pit of our stomachs, who vow to abandon all romantic relationships with women. One-night stands are fine if you want to take the risk. Anyway, MGTOW, or Men Going Their Own Way, is an international men's rights movement promoting the belief that males always become victims in relationships. Well, no, males don't always become victims in relationships. That's not true, and there are loads of relationships in which women become victims. Readers of the group's forums can find discussions on everything from "this is how men get screwed in marriage." Yeah, perhaps the mainstream media should start doing some articles on how the divorce system actually operates sometime, and points out that the hysteria that the mainstream media and feminists and politicians as a whole create surrounding the subject of domestic violence, maybe they should discuss how that has then impacts on the divorce system in terms of all the false accusations that women make there in order to screw men over in the divorce courts and make false accusations and get the children. Anyway, to why women are getting fatter. Well, they're getting fatter because they don't exercise and because they're eating more poorly. It's obvious, which is one of the reasons, yet another reason why they're so unappealing to men these days. Divorce is first and foremost. I think Max should go home and write that word down about 100,000 times, and he still wouldn't have written it down enough, I don't think. But hypergamy, false accusations, as I've already said, so I'll skip down a little bit. Despite the group's loathing of women, okay, there's some truth to that with a lot of guys, but you see how he's characterising it and, not wanting to go into detail as to exactly why men are abandoning the idea of going into marriage and long-term relationships and having children with women. And again, he says, homosexual relationships are also frowned upon. I've never seen that. The movement, a self-described male reaction to the, I thought he's repeating himself, reaction to the excesses of feminism is now striking a chord with Australian teenagers. A 15-year-old boy from New South Wales named as Tom is one to throw his weight behind MGTOW. Well done, Tom. It's probably not true of all women, but I've got the feeling that women are dangerous. Maybe the men around me have just had bad experiences, he told news.com.au. Okay, so I'm going to go to that article. So this has been, it seems, poached from another publication. But before I do, I'm going to go down to the comments section here and let's see how heavily feminists, and Max, if he supports feminists, he doesn't indicate that he does, or if he has anything against MGTOW. Let's see what the guys think. Max. Limey83 from the United Kingdom says, What exactly do women offer besides a warm crevice and an entitled attitude? I can put it better myself. I can find a world of ingrates outside my door. No need to bring them into my home. 439 arrows up, 19 down. Harry Flashman from Australia. Somebody humour me as to the great double standard. A man going his own way without a woman is seen as a misogynist, a woman hater, and somehow to be despised. A woman going her own way without a man is seen as a crusader, a feminist, and someone to be admired. After all, a woman needs a man like a fish needs a bicycle. 425 arrows up, 23 arrows down. There's no point doing any more because the overwhelming majority of the support is for MGTOW and for men going their own way, and comments against it get terrible thumbs down. Anyway, I'll link the thing and I'll put a link to it in the comment section and pin it to the top along with this next article that I'm going to go. Let me just skip back up again. So I've just clicked on the link to the article that this Mail article was based on, from news.com.au, and this is from their parenting teens department apparently. First men, now boys are going their own way. A growing group of boys are joining the men going their own way movement and swearing off women. A 15-year-old explains why. Well, these days, and I read yet another article today in the paper of I think she was a woman in her 50s who was reported for having sex with a 14-year-old boy. She hasn't been found guilty yet, but I would say that Tom can swear off women, but how does he know he's not going to get molested by one these days? There's a growing movement of men in Australia called Men Going Their Own Way. It's an offshoot of the men's rights movement, but rather than getting stuck in and tackling issues, these guys have vowed to stay away from women, stop dating, and not have children. Yeah, that's perfectly understandable because I was part of the men's rights movement in this country back. I started in 1993, and the mainstream media, apart from radio channels, you couldn't get a look in. They didn't give a shit, because if you got an opportunity to tell the truth about domestic violence or the divorce system or equal pay, they obviously they're going to look at your literature, and I created my own back then, and they're going to know that they're a busted flush. I don't know. I'm not making any accusations against this organisation because I don't know them, but that's why they avoided, and they're still doing it today, as a whole throughout the world. They are desperately trying to avoid subjects. When they talk about domestic violence, they don't want to talk about child abuse, because they all know that most child abuse is committed by women, and they don't want to talk about the divorce system. They don't want to talk about the relationship, as I've said, between domestic violence and the divorce system, because they're the ones spreading the hysteria. And as for the equal pay gap, don't worry, I won't bore you. Essentially, MGTOW is a statement about living life your way rather than trying to make a woman happy or being a slave of cultural expectations. One SW member says, NSW, I take it that's New South Wales. This isn't a specific rule book, more a mindset, although there are purists in the movement who are the most extreme and avoid women entirely. That's me, almost. There's a growing number of men who've had enough of feminism and enough of being told that they have to work for a greater good which doesn't actually exist. These are actually in quotation marks, but it's not clear whose quotation marks, where these quotations are coming for. But anyway, start looking into this manosphere, and it's like going down a rabbit hole. Happiness here is supposedly freedom. Okay, so let's go over that again. Start looking into this manosphere, and it's like going down a rabbit hole. No. Again, I'm going to hark back to 1993. You start going down the rabbit hole of feminism, and you realise the lies that they tell about everything from equal pay, equal representation, domestic violence, sexual harassment, stalking, paedophilia, every single subject that you can think of that they try and broach. And you go down the rabbit hole and you realise what liars they are, what consummate, professional, non-stop liars they are, and that they've contaminated the media. They permeated the mainstream media throughout the Western world like a cancer, as I've said before, and I'll continue to say it. and this video is going on longer than I wanted it to. The media seems to consist these days of just two breeds of people, and it has done for a long time: the man-hating women and the cowardly males who simply won't stand up to them. And the article continues, and shunning relationships is now seeping through to the younger generation. Well, good, yeah, and it's bound to. And you imagine how many, over the decades now, of men being hammered in the divorce system and driven apart from their children by not just the divorce courts, but by ex-wives, and kept apart from them. How many of those boys, in particular, who've been driven apart from their fathers, now know the score, and they're thinking, I'm not going to put myself in that position. Look what happened to my dad. Tom, that's not his real name, 15, from New South Wales, is what you would call the growing number of MGTOW. Teens going their own way. It's probably not true of all women, Tom says, but I've got the feeling that women are dangerous. Yeah, damn right. Look at the hashtag #MeToo movement. I mean, how many, look at all the, every day you can find an article somewhere online written by some female feminist journalist claiming that she's part of this and it happens to all women, and then she tells a little sob story, and which happened of course 20 years ago, and she's lying through her teeth, but of course you can't call her out on that because she can lie all she wants, but if you call her a liar, you get sued. Anyway, I've lost my place here. It's probably not too dangerous. Maybe the men around me have just had bad experience, he tells this site. It's scary being a teenage boy. I'm not sure how it's all meant to fit together in the future, says Tom. Yeah, well, whatever you do, Tom, I'd say try to avoid going to university, because that is a hotbed of false accusations, and go for something like, I don't know, I suppose I'm going to have to pause this for a minute so I can think. Yeah, go for an apprentice, unless you're going to university to get a proper degree in the STEM fields, and then I'd advise all young men, stay the hell away from women. You can't trust them on campus at all. And feminists are aware of the fact that loads of young men will leave the campus to go into the neighbouring areas, to bars and whatnot, not clubs, to pick up women. They now call these the places where these campuses are situated rape towns. So they cover every single angle because they can see it coming in advance. They're so well organised. Anyway, here's another quote from Tom. Last year my uncle lost everything because his wife of 40 years decided she didn't love him anymore. Just like that, she randomly got up and left. It got nasty and he lost everything. His house, car, and loads of his money. There's no way I'm ever getting married. And yeah, there you go. Perfect reason. Of course, teenage boys look at other males in their life to gather some perspective on life. Seeing an older brother go through the trauma of false allegations in a messy breakup can also leave scars. Actually, this particular article sounds a little bit sympathetic, I have to say, so I'm not going to knock this organisation. Tom says, my older brother, who's 20, was dating a girl for a few months. She turned really nasty in the breakup and made a string of allegations to the police. That made me suspicious of women too. My brother's a good guy. Absolutely right. And for those outside Britain, we've just had a big story in Britain of some kind of, I don't know, reality TV show with some actress who I've never bloody heard of, falsely accused a guy on the show of being domestically violent because he was having a little bit of play fighting with her. He didn't hurt her at all in the slightest, and it has totally backfired on her, and she had to walk out of the show, and she had to turn up on TV, make a grovelling apology to the guy, and she is absolutely, just at this moment in time, she is the most hated woman in Britain, and the guy she falsely accused on the show is almost certainly going to win it. So that's excellent, an excellent kick in the teeth to the Me Too movement. Tom continues, why should she be able to just say what she wants, accuse him of anything, and then get on with her life like that? It doesn't seem fair to me. I'm not sure what rights I have. Maybe none. Well, you're right, Tom. Well, precious little rights. So, what has gone wrong, the article asks. Why are young people not seeing happy futures with a partner or even setting a goal for family life? Author and psychologist Meredith Fuller says, "None of these views surprise me because I hear them all the time." Well, thank God. It's just a shame that this is hardly ever mentioned in the media. Articles on MGTOW in the media are pretty damn difficult to find. Each time it strikes me as incredibly sad. We have a younger generation who are chaotic and rudderless. Yeah, that's the single mother family. They're fatherless families. It's ruining society. They have no role models. That's right. That's the media again. Where are the positive male role models in the media? You know, before I dumped my TV, adverts, I've said this so many times, so I'll continue to say it. Adverts, dramas, soaps, comedies, they're all just negative male stereotypes. And when they did stereotype a male as being positive, he was given traditional female traits of behaviour and characteristics. And the female positive characters were all displayed as being thrusting, super confident, sassy, just bowling all the men over around them in the workplace like so many skittles in a bowling alley. Total gender reversal. Stand the genders on their head, and you try to go against the grain of millions of years of Mother Nature and evolution, and you will inevitably end up with a sociological disaster. And that's exactly what we have, and it's going to get worse and worse and worse anyway. It's crucial, she says, that we encourage our children find a mentor, a teacher, a relative. Also, yeah, the relative used to be the father, but men have been driven out of the family. Or someone who teaches them sport, someone who they can communicate with, talk honestly to, and learn skills about healthy relationships. Well, that's all very well meaning, but it's very, how can you have a healthy relationship? How can you live in a house? How can you sleep at night, married to a woman, when you know that all she has to do, if she wants you out, is wait for you to go to work, have the locks changed, call the police, and say 2 words: domestic violence. Both sexes have different challenges. We've lost sight of that. We're stuck in a gender war, yeah, because of feminists, the media and politicians, and it's harming our children. It's become very narcissistic, selfish, and a sense of entitlement is running rife. That's women. We need to get a focus back on having respect for other human beings, for partnerships, loving bonds and trust, rather than simply seeing what you can get out of a relationship. Well, I'm afraid that, no doubt there are some men who do that, but this is, she doesn't mean it in this way, but for me, she's just talking about women, even though I'm sure she doesn't mean that, and I'm not trying to put any ideas or words into her head. And it finishes off with, children need to learn that sense of give and take. Well, all women do these days is give, and when it comes to compromise, a woman's idea of compromise is that the man does all the compromising so that she can get what she wants. So let's throw that in. They need to be taught about delayed gratification. Life is not all about self. Well, when you have a divorce system, the way that we have divorce systems right throughout the Western world and beyond, I'm afraid you have to make it about yourself. You have to protect yourself. It's not all about making yourself happy instantly and constantly. For men it is these days, men going their own way. And it's not about running away from the opposite sex. Well, it is. It's about learning to communicate effectively and genuine caring. Okay, I'll leave it there, and leave your comments in the comments section. And if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. Thank you very much.